Chaos erupted on the expressway. The MC, now fully in panic mode, was sprinting for his life from the monstrous creature. Without even glancing left or right, he darted straight into the busy road, narrowly avoiding being hit by an oncoming car. Horns blared, drivers cursed, slamming on their brakes or swerving wildly to avoid him, while others simply froze, dumbfounded by the man who ran like a lunatic across the lanes. Some shouted profanities out their windows, until a monstrous head emerged behind him, peeking out from an alleyway onto the road. The monster, however, remained invisible to the average human eye, so the drivers kept screaming at the MC, unaware of the real threat. But the MC knew. He could feel the heat of the monster's breath, its magical aura bearing down on him like a curse. Damn it, if it sees me again, it'll definitely chase after me. Thinking fast, the MC darted in a random direction, hoping to throw the creature off his trail. But it was already too late. The beast had caught his scent and was now barreling toward him with a violent roar, pushing aside obstacles and crushing everything in its path. Why the hell is it still chasing me? I thought being out on the main road would be safer, he cried out internally as he bolted. I haven't even eaten yet. My body's running on fumes. His breaths were ragged now, his steps clumsy. As he changed directions once again and turned into a side corner, the MC realized things were getting worse. Suddenly, the monster smashed through a moving car behind him, launching itself high into the sky. The MC looked up mid-run, utterly baffled. Wait, it can fly? As he stared, the massive creature tucked its wings and dove, aiming directly for him with claws extended and its body angled like a living missile. Fear surged through him. If this keeps up, I'm gonna die. I'll really be eaten at this rate. Just then, a sharp pain shot through his left knee. He gasped, stumbling. What now? Is this body defective? He tripped, flying into a pile of metal rods and construction debris. Dust and sparks exploded into the air around him as he hit the ground, the monster still closing in fast. Desperately trying to lift himself up, the MC barely managed to glance upward, only to see the monster zipping past him at an insane speed. Its body became a blur as it cut through the air, crashing headfirst into a thick concrete wall just ahead. Boom. The sound echoed like a small explosion. The impact shook the ground, and debris scattered. Instinctively, the MC covered his ears and squeezed his eyes shut from the dust. When he opened them again, red feathers fluttered slowly through the air, drifting down like snow. Staggering to his feet, the MC cautiously approached the crater where the monster had crashed. With a puzzled expression, he stared at the unmoving head embedded in the wall. He kicked lightly at the concrete. It was solid. The monster had slammed into it so hard it knocked itself out. What happened? Did it crash on its own? He muttered aloud in disbelief. Squinting at the bird-like creature, he added, Wait, was this thing bird-brained for real? Analyzing what had just occurred, he scratched his head, internally mocking the absurdity. A creature that flies at a suicidal angle straight into a wall and dies? I want to ask the scholars of Earth, how the hell did such a foolish species come into existence? As the dust began to settle and the adrenaline wore off, the MC suddenly remembered why he'd been outside in the first place. His stomach growled violently. Drool trickled from the corner of his mouth as he stumbled toward the monster's massive, unmoving form. With one hand clutching his belly and the other extended toward the creature, he muttered under his breath about the possibility of it being edible. He touched its feathered flesh, fascinated. It's a species of this planet. If the amino acid structure is even remotely similar, then theoretically, he bit his lip, hungry and curious at once. But just as he reached forward to tear off a piece, a firm voice called out behind him. Startled, the MC turned and saw a woman standing at a distance, frozen in shock. She wore a police uniform and had a steely look in her eyes, though her current expression was more disbelief than authority. That woman was Xian Wuyun, a hunter registered with the city's public security force. Moments earlier, she had received a panicked report from a young boy who had run to their station, shouting that some uncle had gotten caught by the monster instead of him. Urging the team to hurry, she had taken the lead, instructing the others to stay back so she could first assess the danger herself. On her way to the location, her mind raced. The monster in question was known in hunter circles as a beginner killer, a bird-like beast that typically appeared in sandy desert area gates. Originally classified as E-rank, it had become notorious after evolving unexpectedly into a C-rank threat. Its charging speed was now comparable to that of a missile, rendering it lethal to any hunter below C-rank. Anyone under C-rank wouldn't even realize what hit them before they died, she had thought grimly as she sprinted toward the last known location. But nothing had prepared her for the sight she now beheld. There, standing beside the downed creature like a man casually inspecting dinner, was a stranger. Her eyes widened at the eerie smile spreading across his face as he eyed the corpse. "What the hell?" she whispered, confused. "Did he do that?" Alone. Before she could move, the young boy from earlier and another uniformed officer came running up from behind. The boy gasped and froze mid-stride when he saw the scene, while the officer ran toward her, equally surprised. "Hunter Cien Wuyan. What happened here?" the officer asked, still panting. "Uncle, I found the police," the young boy shouted, waving at the MC. The MC blinked, his train of thought interrupted. He glanced up as the others approached, still trying to decide if the monster could be grilled or boiled. The officer smiled as he addressed the MC with gratitude. "Thank you for your hard work, sir. We received a report about a rogue monster attack and rushed over right away, but fortunately, it seems a hunter was already on the scene." "Hunter?" the MC repeated internally, tilting his head slightly. The word felt familiar, yet foreign. He stared blankly, trying to recall if he'd ever heard the term before in this world. Meanwhile, Cien Wuyan watched him closely. Something didn't add up. Was this really a coincidence? She thought. Did he just happen to be passing by and take it down? She narrowed her eyes slightly, still puzzled. The man's clothes were ragged, his demeanor odd, and yet there he was, standing beside a collapsed C-rank monster as if he'd merely swatted a fly. Hunter Cien Wuyan moved closer to the downed creature, kneeling on one knee to inspect it. Her sharp gaze traced the entry point of the impact. She muttered under her breath, "The beginner killer, killed by angle manipulation. That means he must have lured it to crash intentionally." She glanced up at the man standing nearby, the same odd fellow who had been sucking on ice cream just moments ago. "This species normally appears inside sandy desert-type gates," she recalled. "The terrain inside slows you down. Your feet sink with every step. Fighting inside the gate is a death sentence unless you're high rank. But out here, with solid ground, you could take one down without even lifting a finger if you can predict its trajectory. That kind of precision means, at minimum, a C rank." Just then, the MC caught a glimpse of the young boy who had initially sought his help. With a casual but expectant tone, he called out, "You didn't forget our promise, right?" The boy paused, frowning, clearly reluctant, but seeing no way out of it, he shuffled forward and handed over the half-melted treat he'd been clutching, a fresh tangerine ice cream in an oddly egg-shaped plastic bottle. The MC's eyes lit up. Grabbing it, he turned away without another word and began sucking on it contentedly. As the cold, sweet flavor burst across his tongue, he closed his eyes in bliss. Amazing! So this is Earth's delicacy. Such an incredibly delightful egg. His alien soul hadn't tasted anything in eons. He had long evolved past the need for food, but now, in this human body, every bite was a rediscovery of joy. The policewoman stood, bewildered. "Wait, did he just take that from the kid?" she thought, watching the boy silently shed a single tear for his fallen frozen treat. The MC, meanwhile, stood there shamelessly, squeezing the life out of the ice cream bottle with both hands, completely ignoring the group in front of him. Cien Wuyan cleared her throat. Ahem. The MC finally looked up, still licking the top of the bottle. She took a step forward and extended a hand. "I'm Hunter Cien Wuyan from the association," she said formally. "That was an impressive takedown, no injuries, clean execution. You handled it like a pro." The MC blinked, slightly distracted, then awkwardly reached out and shook her hand. His palm was sticky and slightly cold from the juice leaking out of the ice cream. Yes, he replied absent-mindedly. She gave a polite smile, then discreetly wiped her hand with a handkerchief. Are you a freelance hunter? I haven't seen you around before. Still sucking on the bottle, the MC gave her a confused look. And could you show me your hunter ID? She continued. I'll need it for the report to the association. He froze slightly. Hunter ID? What's that? He thought, blinking slowly while continuing to sip on the remains of the tangerine ice. Is it some kind of local license? Clearly oblivious, he stared at her, his mind running wild as he tried to figure out what she was talking about, without looking like he had absolutely no clue. Realizing he had no idea what a hunter ID even was, the MC made a split-second decision to bluff. Sorry, he said, scratching his head, trying to look casual. I don't have my hunter ID with me right now. Xian Wuyun narrowed her eyes, still crouched near the monster's corpse. I see. Then I'll just have to look you up in the association registry, she replied, rising to her feet. What's your name? The MC froze. Name? Crap. What's this body's name? His silence stretched awkwardly. Xian's expression turned sharp. Wait, are you even registered? Did you take the awakening test at all? Her voice rose, laced with sudden alarm. Don't tell me you used your awakened abilities in the middle of a public road without registering? That's illegal. The MC blinked. Awakened? Test? Registry? None of it made sense. He had no idea what she was talking about, and the panic in her voice only made him more anxious. In the background, the young boy was excitedly taking selfies next to the monster's corpse, while the weary policeman tried, and failed, to shoo him away. The MC looked down at his half-empty ice cream bottle and fidgeted nervously. I could really be screwed at this rate. Then, suddenly, he straightened up and spoke with a forced, confident smile. Of course I registered. I just left my hunter ID at home. Xian narrowed her eyes. Really? Yeah, totally, he said quickly. If you wait here, I'll run home and grab it. Before she could respond, he spun on his heel and started walking away, fast, mumbling. Just wait right there. The three others watched him go in silence. I'm never going back down that road again, he muttered to himself. Once he got home, he rifled through the drawers and folders by the low mattress. Finally, he found an ID card, his new Earth identity. Kim Jirian, he read aloud. So that's my name now. But there was no sign of a hunter ID anywhere. Not in the drawers, not tucked inside old envelopes, not in the wallet. Nothing. He slumped to the floor. Did this body really not go through hunter registration? Glancing to the side, he noticed several crushed boxes and wrappers scattered around. Curious, he picked one up, peeled it open, and stared at the contents. Thin sticks with burn edges. These are cigarettes. Suddenly, memories surfaced. Cloudy flashes from the body's past. Late nights, smoke-filled rooms, shaking hands lighting another stick. He was a heavy smoker, the MC thought, squeezing the pack tightly in his hand. Frustration boiled over. Damn it, he growled, slamming a fist onto the mattress. Smoking is fatal to wizards, he shouted. The lungs are everything. In Alfieri, his home planet, magic was life itself. Casting spells required the perfect harmony of internal magic and external elemental flow, with the lungs as the vital medium. A damaged respiratory system was like a cracked wand, completely unreliable, borderline useless. No wonder I couldn't cast anything, he yelled, clutching his head in disbelief. Falling to all fours, he shook his head, devastated. What was I thinking? Trading bodies without checking the basics. I was so blinded by the abundance of ambient magic on Earth, I didn't even notice how damaged this vessel was. On Alfieri, something like this would be unthinkable. Smoking? Deliberately poisoning your own magic circuits. He sighed and sat back against the wall, cooling off. The anger faded, replaced by quiet resolve. What's done is done, he muttered. Blaming myself won't fix this. He stared at his hands, then glanced around the dimly lit room. There has to be a way to restore this body, he whispered. I escaped that hellish prison on Alfieri. Surely I can fix this. Having calmed down, the MC stood tall in the dim room, clenching his fists. No, I won't give up. I'll live here now, and I'll enjoy it. Fully this time. He looked around at his modest surroundings and let out a shaky breath. Despite everything, the ruined lungs, the confusion, the chaos, he felt a strange sense of determination bubbling up. This world might be absurd, but it was also alive, colorful, mysterious. I'll make this work. That was the plan, until he got arrested. A few hours later, in a fluorescent-lit interrogation room at the local district office, the MC sat hunched forward on a metal bench, elbows on his knees, hands dangling. His eyes were wide with disbelief as a uniformed officer paced in front of him. Why would someone as capable as you do something this foolish? The officer barked, hands on his hips. I'm sorry, the MC blurted, bowing his head. His voice cracked from the exhaustion and shock of it all. Inside, he was screaming. How did it come to this? I've only been here for a few hours. Everything had spiraled out of control so fast. He thought he was being smart, careful. But somehow, somewhere between pretending to be a registered hunter and walking around with a dead monster behind him like it was a trophy, he triggered some sort of bureaucratic red flag. Maybe it was the lack of ID. Maybe it was the stolen ice cream. Maybe it was the awkward excuse about forgetting his registration. Whatever it was, it had landed him squarely in a holding cell before he even had the chance to figure out what money looked like on this planet. I underestimated this place, he thought grimly. I thought Earth was just a primitive magicless rock, but these people, these systems, they're insane. The officer let out an exasperated sigh, rubbing his temple. You're lucky we're not charging you with impersonation. If not for the eyewitness accounts about the monster, this would be a very different conversation. The MC raised his head slightly, nodding as he tried to appear as regretful and innocent as possible. I didn't mean to cause trouble, he mumbled. The officer gave him a long, skeptical look. You've got one chance. You'd better figure out what game you're playing here.
Kim Gil-yeol.
The MC flinched at the sound of the name.
Kim Gil-yeol.
That's me now, he sighed, leaning back against the wall. The weight of this new life was finally beginning to settle on his shoulders.
No magic.
No allies, a damaged body, and a society that didn't care how powerful you were if you didn't have the paperwork. But still, he had escaped Alfieri. He was free, and despite everything, that counted for something. A small, tired smile tugged at the corner of his lips. All right, Earth, round 2. About 10 minutes had passed since his release, and the MC was already staggering like a ghost down the sidewalk, arms wrapped tightly around himself, stomach growling louder than the passing cars. His legs trembled beneath him, drool collecting at the corner of his lips. So many mysteries about this planet. But first, his thoughts groaned in sync with his stomach. I'm going to die from malnutrition if I don't eat soon. Passers-by gave him a wide berth, eyeing him like he'd just crawled out of a bunker. But then he smelled it. A rich, savory aroma curled through the air and wrapped itself around him. His head snapped up like a hound on a scent trail. Just a few paces ahead, a sign stood boldly in front of a small shop. Sunny's pork soup. Pork soup? He murmured, blinking at the words. He didn't know what that was, but the smell alone had him weak in the knees. He stumbled inside. Moments later, a steaming bowl was placed in front of him. The MC's eyes widened with pure joy. There was food this close. And I went through all that nonsense earlier? He dug in without hesitation, and that was when it hit him. A burst of flavor exploded in his mouth. Hot, savory, thick with depth and soul. His eyes rolled back slightly as his spoon returned to the bowl, again and again, faster than his brain could keep up. It's so hot, it's burning, it hurts, he whined internally, lips tingling, steam fogging up his face. But I can't stop. My hand, it moves on its own. Is this love? The restaurant blurred around him as he fell deeper and deeper into the world of pork soup bliss. Later, the bliss was short-lived. He sat back in a now familiar chair at the local police station, his posture hunched in shame. The officer sighed loudly, pinching the bridge of his nose. Is the country collapsing or something? He muttered. Since when do young people dine and dash like this? I really forgot, the MC exclaimed, hands raised, eyes wide with guilt and genuine hunger-induced confusion. A second voice chimed in from behind. Wait, isn't that the hunter from before? It was the same officer from the monster incident. The MC slowly turned his head and locked eyes with the man, internally screaming, "Please, not you again." The officer narrowed his eyes, then sighed. It's his first offense, right? Let him go this once. The MC bowed so deeply his forehead nearly hit the desk. Thank you. Thank you. I'll pay the restaurant, I swear. That's when the truth slipped out. He hadn't had money in the first place. That's why he got rearrested. As he stood outside the station for the second time that day, the officer from earlier handed him a folded flyer. We found out you're unregistered, the man said, tapping the paper. Most likely awakened recently. Here, try visiting the Awakening Examination Center. The MC blinked, slowly taking the paper. It's free, the officer added with a grin, shouting after him as he walked away. Make sure you get tested. I'm jealous, honestly. The MC stared at the flyer in his hand, stomach full, pride thoroughly dismantled. Earth is terrifying, he muttered, but somewhere deep down he was excited. Blankly staring at the crumpled flyer in his hand, MC tilted his head slightly. What is this awakening they keep mentioning? Is it something every Earthling's supposed to know by instinct? He mused internally, eyes scanning the bold text and address printed on the paper. Not far from where he stood, the building loomed, a sleek structure buzzing with people walking in and out. Realizing it was nearby and he had nothing better to do, other than not get arrested again, he shrugged. They seem pretty insistent. Might as well check it out. A few minutes later, MC stood outside the Awakening Center, staring up at its polished glass entrance. As he looked at the revolving door, a memory, foreign yet strangely familiar, surfaced. In his mind's eye, he saw Kim Jirio, the original owner of the body, standing awkwardly among a small crowd inside this very building. In his hands was a sheet of paper. Looking closer, MC recognized it. An Awakening rank certification. F rank. The words glared up from the paper like a brand. Snapping back to the present, MC blinked slowly. So, I am registered. Just a disappointment. Just then, a familiar voice called out behind him. Hello, we meet again. Startled, MC turned. It was Cian Wuyun, her short hair slightly tousled, expression curious. Hello, he replied, recovering quickly. She eyed him curiously. What brings you to the association building? And since you're already here, could I finally get that hunter ID? MC froze for a beat. His lie from earlier came crashing back to him. After a brief pause, he exhaled. Actually, I'm sorry about that. I panicked last time. The truth is, I don't have a license. Cian raised an eyebrow. I figured something was off when you didn't come back. So that's why. Looking straight at her, MC continued. I am a registered awakened. But I never applied for the card because I was disappointed in my result. Cian blinked. What? Disappointed? He shrugged with a casual half-smile. Yeah. I'm an F rank. F rank, she repeated, clearly trying to process it. But you caught a beginner killer. That's not something an F-rank hunter can just do. MC nodded solemnly. The stupid bird rammed its head into the wall. He said it so plainly, so deadpan, that Cian was briefly speechless. Her brain scrambled to reconcile what she'd seen with what she was hearing. It's not impossible, she thought. There are rare cases of beginner killers misjudging terrain and killing themselves. But still, her gaze lingered on him. The way he stood so calmly near the monster, his expression back then wasn't normal. It was like someone who's killed dozens, no, hundreds of C-rank monsters. There was no panic, only detachment. A flicker of unease crossed her face. Why would someone hide their real rank? Usually it's the dangerous awakened, those considering illegal activity, that do something like that. She narrowed her eyes slightly, studying his face. You're not lying about your rank, are you? MC looked back at her unfazed. Nope, he said, popping the last piece of gum from his tangerine ice cream bottle into his mouth. F rank. Proud member of the bottom tier club. His expression was unreadable, neither embarrassed nor smug. Just calm. Too calm. Cian stood there, her gaze fixed on MC, studying his unshakable expression. Could he be a dangerous awakened? She wondered, her mind racing. The unsettling calmness in his demeanor made her uneasy. Forcing a nervous chuckle to mask her growing discomfort, she tried to brush off the suspicion, smiling weakly. "Well, you're lucky," she said, voice slightly strained. "Beginner killers are known for being pretty unintelligent." MC, still lost in thought, remembered a detail about Earthlings. They used subtle facial expressions to communicate emotions. "I need to learn that," he thought. In an attempt to appear more friendly, he cracked a wide grin, an unnervingly big one. "That's right. I was really lucky," he said with an overly enthusiastic tone. Cian's smile faltered as she took a step back, her heart racing. What the hell was that expression? She thought, her mind screaming. This guy, he's so suspicious. Her instinct screamed for safety, and without thinking, she pulled out some money she'd forgotten to hand him earlier. "Here," she said, her voice unsteady. "This is for you." MC, momentarily confused, accepted the money. As he felt the crisp bills in his hand, a wave of bliss washed over him. In some places, offering someone money as a greeting, he wondered, marveling at the custom. What a delightful tradition. Where in the universe is there such kindness? He eyed the bills and asked, "But why are you giving me money?" Cian, looking somewhat flustered, explained, "I disposed of the monster's body you left behind. That's your share of the reward." MC, now calculating the worth of the food he'd eaten earlier, couldn't help but let his mind wander. The soup was 8,001 per bowl. With this fluttering paper, I could get about 6 bowls of soup. His eyes glazed over as he salivated at the thought of more of the delicious pork soup. "But wait," he said, blinking in disbelief. "You mean the bird was worth that much? Wasn't it just a monster?" Cian shrugged slightly, her tone informative. Because of the softness of its body, the bird monster itself wasn't worth much as a product. But the 2 C-rank magic stones inside were worth 2,000,001 each. You got a portion of that reward. MC's jaw dropped. Wait, 2,000,000 each? And I'm only getting 50,001. Cian, almost looking exasperated now, sighed. The damage caused when you fought the monster, how you didn't handle it properly, it all added up. I processed the reward under my name, and if you hadn't run away like that, you could have legally obtained Hunter's immunity. Her words struck like daggers, leaving MC speechless. He could only mutter an apology, his heart sinking. "I'm sorry." Cian, unsure of what else to say, turned to leave, her voice soft. "It's all right. Have a good afternoon." MC watched her walk away, his gaze lingering on her retreating form. His fingers tightened around the money in his hand, and he found himself lost in thought. 2,000,001. For a bird that barely even looked dangerous. His mind wandered back to his planet, where a bird like that would have been nothing more than a lowly crawling street bug. As his eyes focused on the crumpled bills, MC did some quick math in his head. 200,001 for a simple twist of the bird's head. That's the price of 75 bowls of soup and rice. He sighed deeply, knowing that to survive in this world, he would need far more than this. Money is essential. He stared at the money again, his thoughts running wild. To live a happy life on Earth, I need more. Much more. A creepy grin slowly spread across his face, and his eyes gleamed with a strange intensity. I have to become a hunter. As MC walked down the busy road, he couldn't help but reflect on the stark contrast between his life before and after his decision to become a hunter. His thoughts drifted back to lunchtime that day, where, just hours ago, he had been lamenting how the previous owner of the body had left him with nothing more than a bowl of soup. But now he had a plan. Being a hunter can make me money. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. A new world of opportunities had just opened up. Sure, magic wasn't working for him yet, but he was certain that with time and the right monsters it would. His mind, now more focused on survival and opportunity, shifted gears as he glanced around. Standing still in the crowd, he caught sight of something that piqued his interest. An opened gate. A group of civilians stood in awe nearby, all looking at the gate with wide eyes, the air around them buzzing with curiosity. Several Hunter Association guards stood watch, keeping the crowds at bay. MC, intrigued, walked closer to the group, observing their awe. Gates are classified by their magical density. He recalled the information he'd picked up earlier. The higher the rank, the more dangerous the monsters inside. To the Earthlings, gates were both a threat and a playground. Hunters made their living in these spaces, venturing in to fight monsters for both the thrill and the profit. His attention shifted to the mana patterns emanating from the gate. The unusual pattern intrigued him, though he remained unfazed. Monsters live inside these gates, he thought. The idea of analyzing the gate intrigued him even further, but as he looked around at the large crowd, he realized it would be impossible to do so without drawing attention. The press of bodies, the constant movement, there was no way he could get a proper look with all these people around. Looking to the horizon, he wondered if there were other gates around. As if on cue, a large trail of mana caught his attention. He decided to follow it, leaving the busy city behind him, heading for the mountains. The trek wasn't easy. The path was steep, and the climb almost killed him, but he pressed on, determined to see where the mana trail would lead. Finally, after a grueling ascent, he reached the top of the mountain. But his eyes widened when he noticed something peculiar, a police control line. At first, he assumed it was just another strange Earthling decoration. Why else would they put plants on a mountain trail? Shrugging off his confusion, he slipped his hand into his pocket, casually walking toward the gate, unfazed by the control line. Just as he passed the barrier, he heard the unmistakable sound of approaching footsteps. He turned to see a team of hunters, their confident strides signaling their intent. The team leader, Yoon Sung-ah, was already on his phone, speaking to a manager back at the Hunter Association. The conversation was brief, but the manager's tone was laced with frustration. "Have you seen these recent gate mutations?" he asked, his voice sharp. "I've lost count at this point. What are you going to do about it?" Sung-ah assured him the investigation would start immediately, and hung up the phone with a click. As he walked towards the team, he gestured for them to move forward. They all stepped confidently toward the gate, their bodies brimming with energy and readiness. But the moment they crossed the threshold, a series of complaints rippled through the team. "Ugh, what's that smell?" one of them muttered, wrinkling their nose. "Probably just the cave smell. It is midsummer, after all," another team member added, trying to mask their discomfort with humor. MC watched the group as they entered, a part of him eager to follow. His mind raced, contemplating his next steps. If he was going to survive and thrive, he needed to adapt quickly. And it seemed the gates, with their monster-filled interiors, were the perfect place to start. Sung-ah glanced down at his watch, a frown settling on his face as he analyzed the details of the gate. "This gate's classified as D rank," he muttered, his voice laced with a tinge of concern as he examined the internal magical density readings on his device. One of his team members, the glasses-wearing guy, chuckled darkly and shook his head. "It's always like this. Whenever something goes wrong with a gate, the monster rank jumps 2 whole levels." He flashed a grin, clearly unfazed by the situation. "Let's wrap this up quick and grab a drink afterward. The quicker we're out, the better." Sung-ah's unease deepened. He glanced around, his fingers tapping nervously against the hilt of his weapon. "Should we slow down a bit? It feels like we're moving too fast. We've been this deep into the dungeon, but we haven't seen a single monster yet." His voice carried a sense of foreboding, like a warning he couldn't quite shake off. The glasses guy, who seemed the most relaxed of the group, chuckled and patted Sung-ah's head, shaking his own in mock disbelief. "You're too timid for someone so young, Sung-ah. You've got us, A-rank hunters, on your team. What's there to worry about?" His words were meant to comfort, but Sung-ah's worry only grew as he scanned the surroundings, feeling the tension in the air. Just as he was about to respond, something caught his eye, a massive shadow looming over them. Sung-ah's stomach dropped as he looked up and saw a colossal golem-like monster standing directly behind the glasses guy. Its stone-like hand was poised, ready to swing down with terrifying force. "Watch out!" Sung-ah shouted, his voice urgent and panicked. The glasses guy turned just in time to see the massive hand descending toward him, but it was too late. The sheer size and speed of the golem made it nearly impossible to avoid.